Welcome to Pillow Talk Confessions. I'm your host, Belladonna.
And I'm Mr. Bob the Zebra King.
And today we are going to be talking about reasons people cheat. I thought this was a fitting topic because last week we talked about why people get married. And of course, it's all fun to talk about, such a lovely topic, but we are no strangers to controversy. So why not tackle why people cheat? I have four reasons that I've narrowed down to kind of pull it all together based off of my research. And I would say that it would be lack, they lacking something in their relationship. They're emotionally immature. They are not that great at conflict resolution. And lastly, they may lack self control. So, this is Pillow Talk Confessions, and I'm going to be fully transparent so as not to bash or criticize anyone. I myself am a former cheater. And I don't subscribe to the mindset of once a cheater, always a cheater, but I know people honestly believe that is true. But that's usually because people who continue to cheat never really get down to the reason why they cheated in the first place. They tend to blame others. They tend to make excuses for their behavior and so on and so forth. I can only speak from the place of a cheater to say that I've not only done those things to justify my actions. So, who better to tell you about a cheater than a cheater? I guess that's the moral of that story. So, before I turn it over to my co host, who's going to, of course, probably illuminate some minds as he usually does. And it happened again. I love. Would you be able to share with our lovely lovers, lurkers, and listeners your, I guess, expertise in this situation? If you don't, you know?
In my experience, my younger days, and when I was a cheater and whatnot, there was a few variety of reasons that I cheated. Whether it was from pure ignorance, whether it was from me lacking love, was whether it was from me just honestly liking receiving love, and maybe even sometimes liking the fact that I was giving love. There's a multitude of reasons that I cheated, but a lot of them were at heart selfish. So, get a lot deeper into it, but I'm just keep it small. It's short and simple for the most part. Well, I seem to be having some technical difficulties at moments, so it looks like I can, I guess, stretch for the moment. Um, well, as we can visit one of the former days, I guess, and whatnot, and explore this cheating episode here. When I was in my younger days, around like 18, 19, I did cheat on my girlfriend at the time. The reason being was, like I said, it was ignorance. I forgot I had a girlfriend. We were both introverts, and it wasn't too uncommon for me to not see her all the time. Reason being is we're both introverts, and I talk to text and write to you when I can, but I was living a hectic life at that time. Was homeless at one point. And in that time period, I wasn't seeing her often, and I was hanging out with somebody, and a little messed up. But yeah, it took me like a whole night to realize that I had cheated. But like I said, that's ignorance and being inexperienced in life. Really, I was young. But I'm glad that you have rejoined us here.
Yes, had a little faux pas with the camera, but I'm back, and
Well,
I wanted to ask you a question. Do you
mhm.
think that that experience of you cheating taught you about yourself?
Yes, took me some time to really look at it and not really be like to to be I guess kind of I'm just titling butthurt because there's a false bravado because I was wrong, and there's a part of me that's I don't want to see I was wrong. No, it's her fault though. She said she should have called me more, but I'm the guy. I'm supposed to like literally. Well, I've looked at this situation since I was dating her, and she was someone who needed me to express myself more often. I probably should have reached out a little bit more. I shouldn't have, been the one to take not necessarily advantage, but like be the one that really engage in the nonverbal communication more often than we did. But we used to do this whole talk, write, and call communication thing, but that's another story.
Was that your only experience with cheating?
No, that's just from the earliest days, and for the few moments that you were gone, that's the story that I told, a little bit just to help keep us on track. So,
Okay, so I guess what I'm getting at is, they say once a cheater, always a cheater. Did you cheat again in another relationship?
yeah, don't mean I cheated in every one of them, but life goes on. That was almost 15 years ago. Over 15 years ago? Oh, that was a lifetime ago. And since then, there's some women that I haven't cheated with. There are some that I didn't cheat with. There are some with I thought about it, but honestly, the conclusion for me that I've really learned is easier to just be honest and leave the relationship or break up than cheat.
So eventually you learn your lesson. Because I always say the universe continues to bring you things until you learn your lesson. And
I got tired before I learned my lesson.
yeah, it usually happens. Like for me, for instance, my story is a little different. I was cheated on first in a previous relationship, and I did not heal from that. I took that baggage into what was my marriage. And right before we had gotten married, I had launched an allegation that my, at the time, fiance, literally a few weeks before the wedding, had cheated on me based off of us having an argument, him leaving his phone out, and me seeing some messages from a female. But back then, this is when phones. This is how you know I'm aging myself. Back when phones had an inbox and an outbox, and we could only see I could only see the inbox, but none of the messages for that outbox were there on his end. So I'm only seeing the messages that she's sending, and it's a message like, "No, I can't. I have a UTI." The hell kind of conversation is this that you having with another woman that she feels free to tell you that she has a urinary tract infection? Something's not adding up here. Why would that even be a topic of conversation? How did we get here? And I could never get a clear answer. The story changed every time the story was told. Then come to find out they were loaning this individual money. You about to be married. You know we scraping up every penny just to have this wedding. Why are you lending people money? So I say that to say I carry that in the marriage because for the sake of getting married, as we talked about in our last episode, if you want to catch up and this is not, the episode that you're starting with us and you're new to the podcast, listen to our last episode before this one. Why do people get married? You'll kind of have a little understanding of why I say getting married for the sake of getting married. So I bring that into the fold. So I'm carrying and harboring that energy, not really talking about it, just pushing it under the side and doing what I realize at a later age that I always do. I suppress my feelings, not realizing that sometime or another they're gonna have to come out, whether I like them to or not. They will manifest in some way, shape, or form. So I'm carrying that energy. We get into our marriage, everything is not going as I think it should because I have this romanticized idea of what our marriage was going to be like, and it is not living up to that expectation. And I'm not feeling attractive, wanted, or desired in the relationship. And in my moment of weakness, I entertained a gentleman caller who was giving me this attention that my significant other wasn't giving me. Was I guilty? Yes. Does it excuse my actions? No. But I did what I did. And somewhere in the back of my mind, that moment on how I tried to justify my actions was pulling that moment from before we got married and justifying that and trying to rationalize that as my excuse to get even. It's never a good thing to do. It's not justified. You can't explain or control someone else's actions. You can only control yours, which was the big lesson I learned in all of that. Going forward, I can honestly say I've never dealt with cheating ever again. So that's why I say I don't subscribe to that message of once a cheater, always a cheater. I actually hit all four of those reasons that I mentioned earlier. I felt like something was lacking in our relationship. I didn't know how to communicate or express myself with several instances in our relationship because I was not good at conflict resolution. When I grew up in a household where when you were mad at somebody, you said whatever the hell you had to say. And it's what people now call fighting dirty, especially when you use your words. And your words can be weaponized and they can hurt people's feelings. So I learned from my grandmother a long time ago, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that took a long time for me to realize that and grasp that concept. So again, I'm not speaking from a place of judgment. I'm speaking from a place of I understand and I can relate to people on both ends of the spectrum. The person who's being cheated on and the person who's doing the cheating. They do say hurt people, but at some point, when does that stop being an excuse? And when do you start addressing your actions? I guess that's the message in all of this. I know I just said a mouthful, and I see your facial expressions, and I just want to get your feedback on what I've just said.
Um, Pardon. For me, it really comes down to something very simple. It was cheating has always either been from a lack of love, me wanting to give love, or just getting love in return. That is all it really was.
I mean, it's so simple. And when people realize love is a complex action, emotion, and concept, because those are three distinct things. You have to put action behind your emotion and the concept of love. Everybody has an idea of what love should be, but they never understand or take the time to recognize what love actually is at times, which is why we have a lot of people cheating.
Indeed.
You know, people don't understand, and I've spoken to someone who, because their significant other was going through postpartum, they thought that it was a license to open up their marriage and let other people in because the wife was suffering. Well, no, if you love that person, you stick by them and you ride it out with them. That's what real love is. That's But what they were talking about was love in a concept of with conditions. They're not satisfying my need, so therefore I'm going to look elsewhere to get that satisfied and fulfilled. But I want them to stay there, and I don't want them to do what I'm doing. But I still want my needs satisfied. That's not someone who is empathetic to someone else's situation. That's more coming across as a narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to say that all cheaters are narcissists, because some people have a conscience and care about other people and don't think about just themselves. And they do feel guilty after they've cheated. I know I certainly did, because I had to justify my actions to myself in order to make me feel better. And even at one point, continue doing it. So I was lying to myself. So, sir,
Mm-hmm.
did you know that they actually have a dating website for married people who are looking to cheat?
No, because even when I was married, I wasn't looking to cheat. Was accused of it. Was was I looking? No. Did I? No. But no, I didn't know about this. Please continue. Carry on.
AshleyMadison.com is the website. Came across it in my studies. And I thought that it was very interesting because it is a whole website dedicated to something that is considered taboo, frowned upon, stigmatized. And I wonder if this website would have to exist if we just flipped society on its head and said polygamy and polyamory and polygyny were ways of lifestyles that were acceptable. Would we need an outlet like Ashley Madison? And for those who don't understand the words that I just used, I suggest you check out season 1 to get some kind of context for the verbiage that I'm using. But I will summarize it briefly by saying that those are words that refer to relationships that often have where at least one person has more than one romantic partner, and it is acceptable and everybody is on the same page. Not to say that those people in those relationships can't be cheated on as well. It is not the same thing as an open relationship, because open relationships are basically relationships where either party could cheat or see other people, and it's not considered cheating. But that's a topic for another day because I don't want to derail myself. I wanted to talk about some behaviors of cheaters. Do you kind of recall any kind of like patterns of behavior that you yourself had in those situations when you were in the relationships that you did cheat?
They weren't really any different than when I wasn't cheating. So that was a thing.
Mm.
So I don't, yeah, I'm not really one to have those signs. So what usually when I've been accused of cheating, I wasn't cheating, which makes it really bad. Like, but yeah, um, for me, I've been cheated on before, and sometimes I wasn't even able to figure it out until the relationship was over, and sometimes that was due to not wanting to know because at that time it would have just made a huge thing about everything surrounding them. Because as a former cheater, I did have a problem of jealousy for a while, and I had to get over that monster. And I've put that monster to bed now. It's just like, if you cheating on me, I figure it out. All right, I'm just gonna straight up, deal with you. If you cheating, you keep them. I'm just keeping my peace. But yeah, the behavior I noticed really was um not necessarily their attention change, tone of voice, um, not necessarily your intentions, but basically it's like you said, it's not the words you say, it's how you say them.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, I do a lot. I'm empath, so I'm empathic. I pick up on a lot of vibes. So a lot of the time, I might sit there and say, "All right, whatever." I might even act like I'm believing a lie publicly.
Mm-hmm.
But I got a whole lot of detective work that's going on the inside that literally I tell anybody out there, I'm going to defend you in the street. Like, no, my girl ain't out there doing that. You can show me video evidence and everything like that. But till I behind closed doors and I got 100% evidence and whatnot, and I address her with it, oh no, it didn't happen. So yeah, you might be able to get away with it for a little while, but eventually, if I figure it out or I really just can't leave it alone, I'm just gonna leave you alone so I can have my peace. And
Oof.
maybe you can have quote unquote gotten away with it, but
You always leave me speechless at times. I will say
well,
that
I'm trying not to derail. I'm trying not to.
I will say for me, I noticed that people who are usually cheating, and may have that like projection type of behavior going on will be like, oh, well, are you cheating on me? Like out of nowhere, like, where did this come from? Like, why are you feeling this way? I'm not exhibiting any behavior to suggest that. Not to say that there are not people on the flip side who have been cheated on repeatedly who may say that same thing. But if the person doesn't have a history or express or exhibit from the beginning of the stages of the relationship that they've been cheated on and they are using this tactic, they may, in fact, be a cheater. It's that old a hit dog will holler situation. Um, Another one that I personally was guilty of is changing my routine. But I got away with it because the other party wouldn't have even noticed it because of the way of our work schedules were. But I changed my whole routine to accommodate my side relationship, so to speak. Um, Deleting text messages and call logs. For some reason, people who are doing something they know is wrong, they're going to get rid of that evidence like it never happened, you know. So they'll delete messages. They'll make it look like nothing ever happened, like the conversation didn't exist. Those people
I do
also
know.
tend those people also tend to be the same people that don't want you to look at their phone. Will go to the other room when they got a call because they don't want you to hear who's on the other side. These could all very well be a strong indication that somebody is up to no good. Not saying that this is all, the blueprint, because I don't want anybody to take this and say, oh, this is something that's going on with my. No, not saying confront them and say that they're cheating, but if you notice these behaviors, maybe you might want to, and you know, say, hey, I've been noticing your behaviors kind of changed. Is there something going on? Don't confront them. That's the wrong thing to do. Don't confront someone because you're opening up a can of worms, but approach the situation as if you care about that individual and want to figure out if there's anything wrong. Because it may just be that they're aloof, distracted, or have something else going on that they don't want to tell you. Like, they can have financial troubles and they could be hiding the fact that they owe money. But that's another pillow talk. Anyway, I felt like this conversation was going to be one that may hit some homes a little differently because it is something that a lot of us have experienced over the years. Back in the day, when a man or a woman cheated, it wasn't you just break up. People may have temporarily broken up but they got back together because it was more important to save the marriage and save that honor and prestige that they had in the community than for them to just break away. And oftentimes there was a side woman that nobody knew about, or a side family that nobody knew about except for the family. That was often how that was handled. And the husband would go to church Sunday with his wife, but Saturday night he was out there with his mistress and his mistress kids, who were also really his kids. So this is nothing new under the sun. That might still be happening now, but it may just be explained differently. You know, that face over there is saying, it's speaking volumes. So what's on your mind, sir?
Look. Okay, so at the end of Baby Boy, how he chose Taraji P. Henderson. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
he chose Taraji. You know how he had a daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and like you see Peanut in the garden and everything, they eye each other down or whatnot. He sees his daughter, he kisses his daughter, and that's the last time you see that child ever again in that movie because she's a side piece and
Mm-hmm.
everything. But that, like, the movie like goes off, they make it all happy. They're gonna have another kid. I'm like, but you never see the daughter again. It's like, but that's how life is, though. People have kids like that. Yeah, that's all I was thinking about. The side family.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they exist. I'm it happens with the royals all the time. They have their
My grandfather's funeral.
uh-oh.
Yeah, we cool though. We all family now, so yeah.
Yeah, it's nothing like learning, your family secrets when someone passes. It's like, oh, who
Hmm.
are they? Oh, those are your relatives, honey. Like, okay. How are we
Why we
related?
sitting together?
Yeah. How are we related? We'll tell you later, baby. Just go on ahead and let the ceremony go on because we don't need you making a scene. It happens. It happens more than people know. We're actually gonna do a whole episode next season on, family secrets and how they impact us. So that's gonna be a fun episode. But I think it's time to wrap this up. What would you like people to take away from today's episode?
You ain't gotta cheat. It's easier to really just be by yourself. I'm not gonna necessarily say be single, because the thing is, if you can work it out with somebody and y'all can have an open relationship, have an open relationship. Possibly seek out. I'm not trying to tell everybody to get out there and try polygamy or polyamory or anything like that, because I don't really know very much about it except like one instance. However, the point is not to hurt anybody. So just be real.
Exactly. Exactly. I definitely think that that's a great, you know, message to get out there to, before you decide to step out there, to take a step back and see if it's time to end that relationship. And as you said, it may not be time, but you may need to take a step back. I like that. I really do. Only thing I would possibly add is that whole adage, once a cheater, always a cheater, doesn't really hit home for everybody.
That's a hurt,
As
that's a hurt person saying. There's
mm-hmm,
somebody who's hurt that said that. I swear. Don't let them dictate your life. Don't let them hold your healing back.
exactly. And people can overcome their past and their mistakes. That's all I gotta say on that. I think it is time to, invite you all to rate, review, and subscribe. And before we leave off, I want our YouTube viewers to let us know some reasons you think people cheat in the comment section. And to our listeners, please make sure you give us a review. Let us know what your feedback on the episode was. Make sure you're subscribed as well. And I know you guys see that ticker that is going across the screen for our YouTube viewers. Join our Facebook group, Pillow Talk Confessions, so you can vibe with the tribe. We post content daily. We don't just talk about what's going on the podcast. We just talk about relationships, adulting, intimacy, and dating 24/7. So you can just drop down in there, get a vibe, with the tribe. There's past guests that are in the group. It's just a nice little way to connect with people. And if you're really not that big on Facebook, we do have the option to vibe with us on our Instagram, which is Pillow Talk Confessions Podcast. Please make sure you follow, like, share, and comment on our posts, because that is how other people who may need to hear our content or see our content get an opportunity to be connected to us as well. So continue to vibe with the tribe, and thank you, lovers, lurkers, and listeners. And now we can say viewers.
You're right.
And until next time, love you later.